In 1945, near Nagasaki, Japan, during World War II, an air raid alarm blares as Allied planes soar over the city. Japanese soldiers rush about while American captives implore for their freedom. Among them is a young Japanese soldier named Yashida, who hurriedly unlocks prison cells. Nearby officers brace for the imminent danger. Peering into a well, Yashida spots the eyes of a man, whom he recognizes as Logan. Logan calmly observes the chaotic scene as everyone scrambles to save themselves. Moved by compassion, Yashida breaks the chains on Logan's cell and urges him to escape. But Logan refuses, recognizing the plans as 29 seconds and knowing escape is futile. He advises Yashida to seek safety in the well for a better chance of survival. As other Japanese officers prepare for ritualistic suicide, Yashida hesitates and cannot bring himself to follow their lead. As the atomic bomb drops from one of the planes, a massive fireball engulfs Nagasaki, obliterating everything in its path. Yashida is on the verge of completing the ritual when Logan intervenes, urging him to flee. Faced with a crucial decision, Yashida chooses to trust Logan's advice and leaps into the well with Logan following suit. In the chaos, Logan quickly seizes a metal door and shields Yashida from the approaching wall of fire. The explosion roars, scorching everything around them. Though Yashida sustains a burn on his face, he survives. However, what astonishes Yashida is witnessing Logan's body covered in third-degree burns, only to see them miraculously heal before his eyes. Logan's mutation, his ability to regenerate, saves him from the devastating effects of the blast. As the scene shifts, Logan awakens in the present, finding himself lying in a bed next to Jean Grey. In her caring manner, Jean asks Logan about the dream he just had. He confesses that it was about Nagasaki, revealing that he suffers from terrible nightmares every night. They embrace affectionately, and Logan expresses his eternal love for Jean, promising never to harm anyone again. However, Jean solemnly informs him that it's too late, and in his disbelief, Logan witnesses his claws accidentally piercing her. He desperately tries to stem the bleeding, but then, with a horrified scream, he wakes up from another dream, this time finding himself in a cave in Yukon. Since Jean's passing, Logan has chosen to live a primitive and isolated life, dwelling in the wilderness like a wild creature, neglecting personal care and grooming. In his small cave, Logan's possessions are limited to bare essentials, empty whiskey bottles, and a fading old radio. He gets dressed and departs, venturing through the natural surroundings toward the nearest town. On his way, he spots a bear claw mark on a tree and effortlessly tears it open using his adamantium claws. To his surprise, he encounters a massive bear that poses no threat and is surprisingly friendly towards him. Logan continues to a small grocery store, purchasing batteries for his radio. Meanwhile, he observes a group of drunken hunters preparing for a mountain expedition. One of the hunters nearly shoots himself in the foot while carelessly handling his rifle, which annoys Logan with his reckless behavior. After his errand, Logan returns to his cave and goes to sleep. However, he is abruptly awakened by screams of agony. Investigating the source of the commotion, he discovers the hunter's campsite utterly destroyed. As Logan follows the fresh mud tracks, he stumbles upon evidence of a bear attack. To his dismay, he comes across the same bear he encountered earlier, now with an arrow painfully lodged in its back. The creature is alive but unable to flee. With a heavy heart, Logan is left with no choice but to end the bear's suffering. Gently, he removes the arrow and senses the poison tipped. After this somber task, Logan heads into town and enters a local bar, unaware that a young red-haired Japanese woman is observing him from a distance. Inside the bar, Logan discovers the sole surviving hunter, who is recounting the tragic bear attack that claimed the lives of his companions. Feeling for the hunter's ordeal, Logan calls the bartender over and buys him a drink. Curiosity gets the better of the hunter, prompting him to inquire about Logan's identity. Unaffected by the question, Logan proceeds to impale his own hand with the arrow, pinning it to the table. With anger in his voice, he demands to know who used illegally poisoned arrows to shoot the bear. Due to a miscalculated dose, the bear didn't die but instead became enraged, leading to the devastating campsite attack. The hunter denies using any poisoned arrows, but Logan remains adamant in his accusations, pointing out that the arrow he removed from the bear's back is the same one in his hand. As tensions escalate, the hunter's friends start to gather, preparing for a confrontation. Unfazed, Logan stands his ground, ready to face them all. Nevertheless, Yukio, the red-haired Japanese woman wielding a samurai sword, intervenes and persuades Logan to hold back. She taunts the hunters, brandishing her ancient sword named Danzen, which translates to the severer in Japanese, as its purpose is to cleave heads and limbs from bodies. Demonstrating its deadly capabilities, she swings the sword through the air, nearly striking the other hunters, leaving them shaken and terrified. With her point made, Yukio confidently walks away, informing Logan that she parked her car outside. Logan decides to accompany Yukio, and they hop into her rented car. Curious about Yukio's intentions, Logan questions her about who she is and why she's looking for him. Yukio explains that she was sent by her employer, Master Yashida, to deliver the sword to him. She reveals that the sword rightfully belongs to Logan and that he's settling his debts by accepting it. Furthermore, she informs him that Master Yashida is on his deathbed and desires to speak with Logan before passing away. The purpose is to express personal gratitude for the life Logan saved nearly 7 decades ago. Though hesitant to go to Tokyo, Logan realizes the importance of this obligation and cannot simply ignore Master Yashida's request. As a police car passes by, he reluctantly agrees to travel to Japan for just 1 day to bid farewell to Master Yashida and return immediately. In Japan, Logan recalls the day he saved Yashida's life, and after enduring the explosion, he's questioned about pain. Logan admits that he always feels it. When Yashida asks about his age, he cryptically responds, indicating that his life has been prolonged through numerous wars, implying that he's lived for many, many years. The flight to Tokyo makes Logan uneasy, and the turbulence only adds to his restlessness. After waking up from a nap, Yukio reveals that she possesses the gift of second sight, enabling her to see death. Upon reaching Tokyo, Yukio shares a story about Yashida's role in rebuilding the city after the war, emphasizing that their family business holds significant influence in Japan. They finally arrive at Yashida's opulent residence, where Logan takes note of heavily armed guards. Curious about their presence, he inquires about them. Yukio explains that due to the Japanese mafia, the Yakuza, there have been numerous attacks, kidnapping attempts, and assassination plots, necessitating heightened security. Logan is then led to freshen up, understanding that his untamed appearance might not be suitable when meeting the elderly Yashida. They bathe him and groom his hair and beard, as they are concerned that his rugged state might be off-putting to Yashida. Logan is required to cleanse himself and shave until he appears less offensive and more presentable for the meeting. Finally, Logan gets the chance to speak with Yashida, who presents him with the same sword he had given him 70 years ago. However, Yashida has additional reasons for bringing Logan to Japan. He believes that his cutting-edge company possesses technology that could offer Logan a unique opportunity. He can become mortal, and his life-giving mutation could be transferred to Yashida's own body. Logan is deeply troubled by Yashida's proposal, adamantly arguing that nobody should desire his power. As he implores Yukio to take him back home, he notices Shinjin, Yashida's son and Mariko's father, harshly mistreating his distressed daughter. Heartbroken by her situation, Mariko contemplates jumping off a nearby cliff, but Logan intervenes just in time to save her from the dangerous act. Yukio persuades Logan to stay for a few more days and manages to find a place for him to stay. Meanwhile, Shinjin visits his father, Yashida, who expresses his doubts about Shinjin's capability to lead the company. Yashida believes that Shinjin's actions have brought the company close to ruin, so he plans to appoint Mariko as his successor upon his passing. However, Shinjin scoffs at the idea, dismissing the possibility. As Logan sleeps, he experiences a dream where Jean appears in his bed and kisses him. But he soon realizes it's just a dream, and Jean transforms into Yashida's oncologist, Dr. Green. In this unsettling vision, Dr. Green's snake-like tongue presses against Logan's throat, leaving behind something that emits a green vapor from his mouth. As Logan stands in a defensive posture after the strange encounter in his room, he hears a commotion outside and rushes to see what's happening. Through the window, he witnesses paramedics passing through the property, carrying Yashida's lifeless body. Yukio appears, tears streaming down her face, and sadly informs Logan that Yashida has passed away, and she couldn't foresee his death. Days later, they hold Yashida's funeral in the heart of Tokyo. Logan and Yukio attend, observing the crowd attentively as they take part in the funeral procession. Among the mourners, Shinjin appears particularly irritated with Logan, telling him to leave. However, Logan and Yukio join the rest of the attendees and stand at the back of the crowd. Unbeknownst to them, a lone archer stands on a nearby rooftop, silently whispering to Yashida's spirit, vowing to protect Mariko. During the funeral, a pair of traditionally dressed priests bring Mariko to the front. However, Logan's keen senses detect Yakuza tattoos on their arms, raising suspicion. Acting on his instincts, he swiftly moves through the crowd and grabs Mariko, expressing that something feels amiss. This action provokes anger from Shinjin, Mariko, and her fiancé, Naburo. Logan notices a weapon-like shape concealed under one of the priest's robes, prompting him to draw his gun. In the midst of the confrontation, Logan takes a gunshot to the chest, experiencing more pain than usual. Suddenly, all the priests shed their robes, revealing Yakuza tattoos and attire. They swiftly seize Mariko and amidst gunfire make their escape from the funeral. Despite being shot multiple times, Logan refuses to give up and fights fiercely, relying on his regenerative abilities to heal from the wounds he sustains. Regrettably, Logan's healing ability appears to be severely impaired, hampering his usual resilience. The skilled archer, Harada, aids their escape by eliminating numerous Yakuza members, creating a path for Logan and Mariko to flee from the funeral temple. While trying to follow them, Yukio is halted by Shinjin. As they make their way through the streets, the Yakuza relentlessly chases after them. Logan guides Mariko to the city center, with Harada providing cover and neutralizing anyone in pursuit. Seeking a safe haven, they board a bullet train. When Logan inquires about Mariko's destination, she reveals that her family owns a house at the end of the train line. Logan steps into the train's restroom, where he inspects his chest wounds and realizes that they're not healing as they should. Shaken by this discovery, he emerges from the restroom and is immediately confronted by 4 Yakuza soldiers who launch an attack. Despite his weakened state, Logan fights back, using his claws to create an opening in the through which one Yakuza is thrown out. Another opponent is tossed onto the train's rooftop. Logan continues to battle the Yakuza, disposing of one after another with his claws. However, during the intense fight, he is inadvertently thrown out of the train through the opening. Holding on desperately with one limb, he spots an obstacle ahead and leaps to eliminate it, successfully landing back on top of the moving train. The fight continues on the rooftop, complicated by recurring obstacles that demand his attention. After an arduous struggle, Logan finally triumphs over the Yakuza attackers and returns to his seat inside the train. Realizing that the Yakuza are on board the train, he deduces that some of them will be waiting for them at their final destination. Mariko agrees with Logan's suggestion, and they disembark the train well before reaching their original destination. Together, they traverse the city in search of a safe and familiar place for Mariko to stay. However, Logan interrupts their journey, explaining that they must find a hideout where they won't be easily found. Spotting a shabby-looking hotel, Logan ushers Mariko inside. She refers to it as a love hotel, meant for couples, but Logan believes it's the ideal choice, as the Yakuza would least expect them to be there. They pick a room and head upstairs. While Mariko rests, Logan remains on guard, watching from the balcony. In a state of exhaustion, Logan experiences a hallucination of Jean, urging him to abandon everything and be with her. Despite this tempting vision, a Yakuza member sneaks up behind him and shoves him off the building. On the ground, he becomes a target of torture by other Yakuza members. As Logan regains consciousness, he finds Mariko tending to his wounds, taking down the Yakuza members who attacked him. Grateful for her help, He tries to express his thanks, but the young veterinarian who assisted in his care appears nervous and wary of him. The veterinarian points to the fresh cuts on his own face and arms, caused unintentionally by Logan during the treatment. Despite feeling better than the previous night, Logan is aware that his healing ability is still far from its former state of immortality. He speculates that Yashida's oncologist, the blonde doctor, must have been responsible for his current condition. Meanwhile, Dr. Green walks through a dirty alley and encounters Harada, who was anxiously awaiting her. She is 2 hours late, angering him. Dr. Green demands to know the whereabouts of Mariko and Logan. Harada is still searching, but Mariko has not appeared in her usual places. Dr. Green reveals her true identity as a mutant known as Viper, and instructs Harada to find Mariko and Logan before the Yakuza can locate them. Mariko and Logan make their way to Yashida's old house in Nagasaki. Mariko believes that no one will follow them there, as the house is old and dilapidated, attracting little attention. They purchase supplies, and Mariko prepares a meal for Logan. While they eat, Logan gently insists that Mariko shares what happened the other night that led to her father slapping her. Mariko reveals that she tried to warn her father about the imminent reading of her grandfather's will in 3 days. The will designates her, not her father, as the new head of the Yashida Corporation. She also discloses that her engagement to Nibiru was arranged by her father for political purposes. Furthermore, she confides about Harada, the solitary archer she grew up with and has wished to marry since she was only 14 years old. The following morning, Yukio contacts Mariko, desperately seeking to know their whereabouts. Despite their closeness, Mariko declines to disclose their location, but assures Yukio that Logan is behaving well and taking care of her. Later on, Logan assists local residents in removing a fallen tree obstructing the road. They then decide to go for a walk, during which Logan recognizes a familiar sight in the distance, the place where the prisoner of war camp was located, along with the well where he once saved Yashida's life. He recalls the day when Yashida presented him with the sword as a token of gratitude for rescuing him. However, Logan had refused to keep the sword, insisting that Yashida should safeguard it, with the promise that he would return for it someday. As they continue their walk, they come across the devastating aftermath left by the atomic bomb. At that moment, Logan shares with Mariko that he had met her grandfather there, and together they had sought refuge from the deadly bomb's effects. Mariko then shares her grandfather's wisdom that the place they visited is evidence that everything in the world eventually finds peace and renews itself. She also asks Logan about Jean, as he mentioned her name several times in his sleep. However, Logan avoids answering her question. Upon returning home, they spend the night together. Finally, Logan opens up about his relationship with Jean, confessing that he loved her and the heart-wrenching reason why he had to end her life. The next morning, Logan wakes up to find Mariko missing. He hears her screams from outside and discovers that the Yakuza have located her and taken her captive. Determined to rescue her, Logan rushes to intervene, but a Yakuza member shoots him, slowing him down. Nevertheless, he manages to incapacitate the shooter and extract information about Mariko's whereabouts before continuing his pursuit. The man reveals that Naburo, Mariko's fiancé, had hired them for the kidnapping. Just as Logan receives this information, Yukio arrives, having tracked the Yakuza to Nagasaki. Together they set out to confront Naburo. During their journey, Yukio discloses that she had a troubling vision in her dream, depicting Logan severely injured and bleeding to death. She mentions seeing him die with his heart in her hand. However, Logan reassures her that despite numerous attempts to kill him, he is still alive. Eventually, they locate Naburo in his apartment with a pair of prostitutes. Logan confronts him, forcing him to confess his involvement in the plot to harm Mariko. Naburo admits that he conspired with Shigen to harm Mariko, and he reveals that Shigen currently has her in his possession. In response, Logan throws Naburo off the balcony, fortunately landing in a pool below. Meanwhile, Mariko arrives at the Yashida estate, where her father, Shigen, awaits her. Shigen confesses that he had worked tirelessly to take over the Yashida Corporation after the elder Yashida's passing. However, Upon discovering that Mariko would inherit the company, he conspired with the Yakuza, using her fiancé Noburo to eliminate her before the will could be read. If Logan hadn't intervened on the night of her grandfather's death and saved Mariko from jumping to her death, Shigen would have gained immediate control of the corporation. Suddenly, a group of black-clad ninjas, led by Hirata and Viper, silently and expertly descend upon the compound. They skillfully eliminate the Yakuza members, cornering Shigen. Viper reveals that there are greater forces at play than just the Yakuza and Shigen. He uses a poison pen to inflict a severe disfigurement on Shigen by stabbing him in the neck, causing him to collapse into the garden pool. Viper and their men abduct Mariko and leaving behind evidence of the violent confrontation. Logan and Yukio arrive later, witnessing the aftermath of the massacre. They continue their search until they enter Yashida's private room, filled with advanced medical equipment and X-ray scanners. There, Yukio discovers a note that leads them to a Yashida facility located 500 kilometers away, hinting at Mariko's possible location. Feeling increasingly suspicious about his condition, Logan decides to examine himself using the high-tech medical equipment. He positions the X-ray scanner over his body and makes a shocking discovery: a metallic parasite attached to his heart, planted there by Viper days ago. This device is what has been hindering his healing ability and causing his weakened state. Despite Yukio's pleading, recalling her ominous vision of him dying with his heart in her hand, Logan chooses to take drastic action. With one of his claws, he opens his chest and reaches for the metallic parasite, determined to remove it and regain control over his healing abilities. Shigen, despite surviving Viper's attack, reappears donning traditional samurai armor, intent on killing Logan. He raises his sword in aggression, but Yukio intervenes, fiercely engaging in battle with Shigen, giving Logan a chance to concentrate on extracting the metallic parasite from his chest, despite the intense pain. Eventually, Logan manages to grasp the parasite, but the ordeal takes a toll, causing him to lose consciousness. He lies on the bed with a large open wound in his chest. Meanwhile, Shigen gains the upper hand against Yukio, overpowering her and preparing to strike a lethal blow. However, just in the nick of time, Logan's clawed hand appears, blocking the attack. Logan has finally healed, and with his renewed healing ability, he rises to confront Shigen. Shigen strikes Logan multiple times, trying to kill him once more, but Logan's healing ability has returned to its usual state. He endures the blows and decides not to take Shigen's life, stating that he must live with the knowledge that he tried to kill his own daughter. Despite being impaled by Shigen's sword, Logan retaliates, striking him in the throat, which results in Shigen's instant death. After dealing with Shigen, Logan returns to Yashida's room to find Yukio, helping her to her feet. Yukio warns him against going to the facility, as it's likely a trap, but Logan remains resolute in his decision. As she leaves the room, she notices peculiar robotic designs scattered around. The facility lies in the mountains, and as Logan approaches a nearby village, he encounters Hirata, who urges him to depart. Logan refuses, prompting Hirata to attack him with a sword strike. To his amazement, Hirata witnesses Logan's fresh wound heal instantly. Despite the surprise, Hirata orders his men to capture Logan. A fierce battle ensues, and just when the situation seems dire for Logan, Yukio arrives to aid him. After standing atop a farming machine, she skillfully eliminates several ninjas, turning the tide in their favor. Logan directs Yukio to protect herself while he uses the environment to create chaos, causing the machine to explode and taking out multiple ninjas in the process. Despite his efforts to reach Mariko, he faces a barrage of arrows shot by the ninjas. Hirata, who has dipped one of the arrows in viper venom, eventually hits Logan, causing him to lose consciousness. Upon awakening, Logan finds himself bound to a chair inside the facility, unable to move his hands. Viper emerges, praising him for successfully removing the metallic parasite from his heart. From where he is restrained, Logan hears Mariko's screams for help, and his attention is drawn to a massive metallic mechanical samurai located nearby. To his surprise, the samurai stands up and begins approaching him. Viper reveals that she has been obsessed with Wolverine's adamantium skeleton for years, and she has stored the material in the facility. When Logan extends his claws, he finds that they become trapped in the restraints that prevent him from retracting them back. As the adamantium samurai draws near, it wields a large flaming sword, aiming to sever Logan's claws. In the sudden twist of events, Mariko manages to deceive Harada and stabs him instead. She then rushes to Logan's side, causing the samurai to react and deflect the attack. The diversion allows Logan to break free, and he seizes the opportunity to escape with Mariko. As they flee, the samurai moves to intercept them. Just as Viper is about to catch up with them, Harada intervenes by shooting her with an arrow. The shot sends her tumbling several floors below, but it fails to kill her as she quickly regenerates, taking on a reptilian appearance. Meanwhile, in a bold move to shield Mariko, Logan seizes him and leaps several floors down to evade the samurai's onslaught. During the confrontation, the samurai manages to use its heated sword to sever the claws from one of Wolverine's hands, revealing the bones underneath, which are coated with adamantium. As Viper undergoes a transformation, shedding her skin and hair to reveal her true appearance, Logan engages in a fierce battle to evade the deadly strikes of the adamantium samurai. Just then, Yukio arrives at the facility, managing to make her way inside. She observes Viper and Logan and seizes the opportunity to help him. Logan seizes the second sword from the samurai, attempting to confront him, but his efforts prove unsuccessful. The samurai, wielding its heated blade, poses a significant threat to Logan. As the battle intensifies, the samurai nearly strikes Logan with its deadly blade. Despite Logan's efforts, he is overpowered by the formidable opponent. The samurai is determined to cut off his remaining adamantium claws, which could be disastrous for Logan. However, before the samurai can carry out its plan, Harada intervenes, catching its attention with an arrow shot into the gap in its helmet's eyes. Meanwhile, Yukio confronts the dangerous Viper, using her exceptional combat skills to gain the upper hand in their fight. As Harada approaches the samurai, he tries to reason with him, pointing out that the path he was following was not the right one. In a desperate attempt to stop the samurai, Logan recalls a crucial detail from Japanese culture. A samurai needs to wield the sword with both hands to activate it. With this knowledge, he manages to seize control of the heated sword and launches an attack against the samurai, successfully decapitating the armor's head. Their intense fight propels them several floors below, causing the samurai to crash through the facility's wall. Logan ends up hanging on a precarious cliff edge. Meanwhile, Mariko discovers Harada in his final moments, but despite her efforts, she is unable to save him. Mariko notices Wolverine's claws lying nearby, and Logan, in immense pain, tries to climb back up the cliff. However, the samurai swiftly turns around and cuts off his remaining claws, causing him even more agony. The samurai armor, which turns out to be Yashida, catches Logan just in time, preventing him from falling further. In a shocking turn of events, Yashida seizes Logan's wrists, and 6 drills emerge from the suit's forearms. The needles pierce through Logan's bone claws, penetrating directly into the marrow. In a matter of seconds, Logan begins to age rapidly, and Yashida starts to regain his youth. Meanwhile, Mariko approaches them and takes action. She throws one of Wolverine's claws at her grandfather, striking Yashida's skull. Defying her grandfather, Mariko confronts him, asserting that he is already dead. With determination, she strikes him again in the neck, leaving him incapacitated. Logan manages to break free from the suit's drills, and his life force returns. Filled with rage towards Yashida, he destroys the armor and grows his claws, driving them into Yashida and forcing him off the cliff beside the building, bringing an end to the old man's life. Some days later, Mariko bids farewell to Yukio. As Logan approaches, Mariko kisses him, but they both agree that their paths must diverge. Logan boards a plane, and Yukio pledges to be his bodyguard henceforth. Curious about their destination, she asks him where he'd like to go, to which he offers an indefinite answer. 2 years pass, and Logan finds himself at an airport going through security when suddenly, metal objects start levitating.
That's the end of the story. If you like this video, please subscribe in order to receive notifications for our future uploads.